My sister and I were presented with a magical choice, a disembodied voice asking us to pick between $1 billion or our mother. Without a single moment of hesitation, my sister Clara chose the money. She then used that billion-dollar dowry to marry into the prestigious Vance family. I, on the other hand, chose our mother, who had since remarried, and we continued to live a quiet, ordinary life. But who could have predicted that less than 3 years after her lavish wedding, the entire Vance family would declare bankruptcy? Her new husband, Leo Vance, took what little money was left and fled the country, leaving Clara to face the consequences, which included a prison sentence. The very first thing she did upon her release was to track me down and kill me. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing right back in that same moment, on that fateful day, facing the very same choice. This time, however, Clara spoke first, her voice clear and firm as she chose our mother. A small smile touched my lips. Finally, it was someone else's turn to walk into that den of vipers for me. I choose Mom. When my twin sister Clara uttered those words, her face was alight with an undisguised smugness, the very same self-satisfied expression she had worn in our previous life after making her choice. Last time she had chosen the $1 billion and had been led down a path to a tragic end. It was clear that this time, she was supremely confident in her revised decision. Her choice left me with only one option. I had to be the one to accept the Vance family's billion-dollar dowry and marry the son of the country's richest man, Leo Vance. Our wedding day was a magnificent spectacle. Influential figures from every major field across the nation were in attendance, filling the grand hall with their presence. There was, however, one conspicuously missing person: the groom. It was an exact repeat of what had happened when Clara married him in our past life. It was almost comical, really. Leo was so petulantly childish that he refused to show up to his own wedding ceremony, all as a grand gesture to prove his undying love for the woman who'd gotten away. The truth, as I knew it, was that it didn't matter whether he married my sister in the last life or me in this one. It was only happening because his family was pressuring him to settle down, and because we both happened to bear a striking resemblance to his first love. In his own words, we were a decent enough stand-in. The groom's absence plunged the entire ceremony into a state of incredible awkwardness. As I stood alone beside the officiant, my eyes scanned the crowd and I caught a glimpse of Clara, a mocking smirk plastered across her face. The first time around, when she had been the one standing in my place, she had been so overcome with fury and embarrassment that she had burst into tears, transforming an already awkward situation into an unbearable one. This time, she was clearly determined to sit back and enjoy the show. My dear sister has always been that way. She simply cannot stand to see me doing better than her. When we were children, she loved to slack off while I poured my efforts into studying. I earned good grades and was consistently praised at school, a reality she found intolerable. So she teamed up with the school bullies to make my life difficult. Thanks to a lifetime of her antics, I have become remarkably unflappable. I felt no resentment at all. I smiled and gracefully went through all the motions that the master of ceremonies had planned. During the reception, as I made my rounds among the guests, several wealthy wives approached me to offer their praise, remarking on how graceful and poised I was, handling such a difficult situation with such composure. They all seemed to think I was suffering some great injustice, forcing myself to put on a brave face for the sake of appearances. What they didn't know was that I genuinely did not care in the slightest. It was just a wedding. Who cared if the groom decided to show up or not? As long as the $1 billion was successfully transferred into my account, everything was perfectly fine. After all, I wasn't marrying him for the man himself. I was marrying him for the fortune. That night, as soon as we returned to the Vance estate, my mother-in-law Eleanor immediately laid into Leo, calling him a useless disappointment who failed to understand the bigger picture and had nearly brought disgrace upon the entire Vance family. "Do you have any idea what would have happened today if Alara hadn't held it together?" she demanded. "Our family would have become a laughingstock." Faced with his own mother's sharp criticism, Leo looked indignant. My mother-in-law was beyond frustrated. "I don't know what you have to complain about. Being able to marry a girl like Alara, you really think she's marrying up?" I'd say we're the ones who are lucky. Do you have any idea who Alara is? All right, stop talking. Leo cut her off abruptly. I don't care who she is. With that, he rose from the sofa, strode over to where I was standing, and stared me down, his eyes completely void of any warmth. You're just a substitute, and a substitute should know her place. Remember, I will never touch you, so don't even think about trying anything with me. Oh God, the sheer stupidity radiating from him was nauseating. If my mother-in-law hadn't been present, I would have told him to get as far away from me as possible. I'm practically allergic to idiots. I squeezed out the fakest smile I could manage and said, that would be for the best. Clara was even more impatient than I had anticipated. It had been less than a month since my wedding, and she was already eager to flaunt her new life. To ensure that I wouldn't refuse her invitation, she even concocted a clever excuse and had my mother deliver the message for her. Your sister found a really great boyfriend. I'm worried she's being scammed. Could you check him out for me? We met at a coffee shop that Clara had chosen. We had barely exchanged a few pleasantries before she launched into a spiel about how it was her absolute favorite spot. As she spoke, she wrapped her arm around her boyfriend Mark's arm, smiling sweetly. Mark spoils me so much. He knew I loved this place, so he immediately bought a yearly membership. I knew it. There was no way Clara, with her meager salary, could possibly afford a high-end coffee shop like this one. Of course, she was using someone else's money to show off. I remained unfazed, offering only a polite smile. Well then, we should thank Mr. Mark for his patronage. That was right. This coffee shop was one of my businesses. After all, with $1 billion in assets, letting it all sit in a bank merely earning interest would be terribly boring. It was only natural for me to make a few strategic investments. Clara, who had been holding her coffee cup and trying to strike an artsy pose, slammed it down on the table. Just because you have money doesn't mean you should invest it recklessly. Be careful you don't go bankrupt. Realizing Mark was looking at her strangely, she quickly picked up her cup again, took a sip, and said slowly, What I mean is, I've had a change of heart. Money isn't important. What's important is whether the person by your side is truly genuine. Once she got started on that topic, she couldn't stop, rattling on about how wonderful Mark was, how he was a young achiever, and how he catered to her every whim. Watching Clara, I just felt a pang of pity for her. What had possessed my sister? To be reborn and still be so utterly clueless. Money isn't as important as a man's true love? What kind of nonsense was she spouting? Besides, did I not know exactly what kind of person this Mark was? In my past life, I had also been in a relationship with him. We met at a party at Mr. Davies' house. At the time, Mark was Davies' star pupil, and my mom was discussing the prospect of marriage with Mr. Davies. Mark was handsome and, at 30, already considered a top expert in his field. He was also incredibly kind to me. When a man like that pursued me so intensely, I really saw no reason to refuse. But my mom, acting on Mr. Davies' advice, was dead set against our marriage. Mark actually suggested we get pregnant first to force the issue, a proposition I flatly refused. Who knew that my rejection would reveal his true colors? He immediately started spreading slutty rumors about me everywhere. It caused me a great deal of trouble, and it took a long time to put the whole messy affair to rest. I later found out that the reason he was in such a hurry to marry me was that his top expert status was a complete fabrication. He was actually on the verge of being fired from his company and was desperately hoping to use Mr. Davies' status as a university professor to land a position at the university. A man like that could be genuine? Even if he was, his sincerity would be worthless. But all his shady dealings were mere child's play compared to Mr. Davies' own disgusting secrets. While Mark was in the restroom, I decided to give Clara a warning. No matter what, she was still my sister, and I didn't want to see her fall into that scumbag's clutches. Don't waste your time on a guy with the last name Mark. Mr. Davies and our mom will never agree to it. I took a sip of my coffee and added, To be precise, they won't agree to you being with anyone. Stop spouting nonsense. You're just jealous, aren't you? Your husband won't touch you, so you can't stand to see me and Mark so happy together. Besides, Mr. Davies is very good to me, too. The only reason you two didn't get along was because you have an unlikable personality. I scoffed. Heh, so you think you're so popular with Mr. Davies? In that case, I have nothing more to say. Good advice is wasted on those who are determined to self-destruct. Lately, I've been busy making my money work for me. Besides the coffee shop, I actually have several other businesses. With cash on hand, investing is a thrill, and I've finally fulfilled my old dream of being an entrepreneur. I used to dream of saving enough money to open my own shop, and for years I worked almost every job imaginable. I learned the ins and outs of everything, from production to sales to customer service. But for a broke 9 to 5er, saving up enough capital to start a business is no easy task. I never managed to do it before I died. But thinking back now, it was precisely the valuable experience I gained from those entry-level jobs that allows me to understand the market, customers, and most importantly, employees better than other investors. After half a year, not only has my $1 billion not shrunk, but it's actually grown quite a bit. I haven't told anyone, though. One day, I was lying in bed, grinning at my bank account balance on my tablet, when Leo suddenly burst into the bedroom, staring at me with a look of profound annoyance. Woman, don't think you can get my attention by pretending to be uninterested in me. I looked up at him as if he were a complete moron. Fucking idiot, I said nonchalantly. If you have nothing better to do, go find something. Stop hanging around me. I'm busy counting my money and don't have time for you. For some reason, Leo flew into a rage and started lecturing me. Money! 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 You're just like all the other women. All you know is how to spend money. I scoffed internally. I probably knew better than anyone what happens when all you do is spend money. After all, I had Clara's example as a cautionary tale. In her past life, she was a brainless spendthrift, blowing through her $1 billion dowry in just over 2 years. The moment the money ran out, she remembered that she should probably work on her marriage, but it was too late. By then, Leo was completely obsessed with his first love. I'm not like her. I never had any intention of maintaining this non-existent marriage. Why waste time on something so meaningless? Isn't focusing on making money more satisfying? A month later, my mother-in-law and I were on a plane to France. She was going on vacation while I was going for 2 reasons. 1, to do market research for a new pop idol venture, and 2, because I couldn't stand Leo anymore. He had been showing up in front of me more and more often, always with his domineering CEO act. Woman, it's useless no matter how cold you pretend to be. I won't give you a second glance. I didn't know how to express my disdain for him. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, looked down on this kind of man who did nothing all day. Could a company really survive with a CEO like him? On that question, Leo soon provided a practical answer. It couldn't. He completely lacked the most basic decision-making skills that a leader should possess. During our 2 weeks in France, my mother-in-law received calls about company matters every single day, most of them from Leo himself. He was a man approaching 30, yet he acted like a child, needing to ask his mother's opinion on every little thing. He couldn't make a single decision on his own, let alone handle the volatile world of business. My mother-in-law, completely fed up, booked an early flight back home. I came on this vacation to see if Leo could manage the company independently without me, she said, her voice laced with disappointment. It seems I really overestimated him. You, on the other hand, are so much more mature than he is. Watching you do your research these past few days reminded me of when I was young, helping his father run the business. I'll say what I said before. The Vance family truly married up by getting a girl like you. Looking at this kind, earnest elder, I found it hard to reconcile her with the evil mother-in-law Clara had described. But in that moment, I understood. My mother-in-law wasn't against anyone in particular. She just hated incompetence. She was this critical of her own useless son, so it was no wonder she couldn't stand her even more useless daughter-in-law Clara. As it happened in our shared hatred of incompetence, we found common ground. The first thing I did when I got back was to set up an entertainment company and start recruiting trainees on a massive scale. I, Ilara, was going to get a piece of the entertainment industry pie, and it was going to be a big one. When my mother-in-law found out, she was incredibly supportive, investing a large amount of capital and using her extensive connections to get my trainees numerous opportunities for exposure. At first, I was a little hesitant, not wanting to owe her such a huge favor, but her words put my concerns to rest. Don't think I'm just spoiling you. This is business. I can't put all my eggs in one basket, especially when that Vance Enterprises basket is looking so flimsy. With her help, my trainees quickly gained some fame. A new show called Idle Ascent was in the works, so I signed them up. And I, as one of the show's main sponsors, took a seat on the judges panel as a mentor. Trainees from various companies performed one by one, but everyone knew they were just opening acts, meant to highlight the person coming up next. Hi everyone, my name is Isabella Croft. Isabella Croft, the consensus favorite to win, Leo's long-lost first love. I had to admit, Isabella's face, which had clearly cost a fortune, was indeed captivating. No wonder that fool Leo was so bewitched by her. But as beautiful as she was, her talent was just as abysmal. Her rap performance was so offbeat it made me want to throw up. Your stage presence is excellent, I began, choosing my words carefully, but your technical skills need a lot of work. I thought I was being diplomatic enough, but I never expected Isabella's team to be as manipulative as she was. They immediately went into overdrive, marketing her as a victim. Isabella also dropped not-so-subtle hints about her past with Leo, guiding public opinion to paint me as a vicious woman who stole her man and bought her way into a rich family. The show had only aired one episode, and the buzz around her and me had already overshadowed all the other trainees, which was exactly what her team wanted. Now the public was most interested in Leo's own stance. Insiders knew that the CEO of a publicly traded company would never comment on such tabloid gossip. However, they overestimated Leo's intelligence. I got a call from him. If you just admit you were only pretending to be cold to me, I'll do you a favor and help you out this time. Fucking idiot. Yelling the words I had been holding back for so long, I hung up the phone. Half an hour later, I saw the headline. Vance Enterprises CEO publicly sides with Isabella Croft, reveals sentimental keepsake. You idiot. Did a donkey kick you in the head? I drove over to Leo's office, slapped him hard across the face, and cursed him out. He held his reddening cheeks, staring at me in utter shock. The last person who hit me was my mom. Woman, you're playing with fire. If you keep mixing your personal and professional life like this, telling the world everything, you're the one who's going to get burned. Do you really think Isabella Croft is some angel? He smirked. Hey, woman, you really are jealous of Isabella, as if you're worthy. I'm so done. Let it all burn. He's beyond saving. I was actually thinking of giving him a wake-up call, getting him to stay away from Isabella so my mother-in-law's life's work wouldn't go down the drain. But now I see there's no point. With a leader like him, it would be a miracle if Vance Enterprises didn't go bankrupt. Vance's rival, Titan Industries, didn't miss this golden opportunity. Riding the wave of Leo and Isabella's tabloid news, they launched a smear campaign about Leo's chaotic personal life and even exposed that the sentimental keepsake was actually a limited edition item from a brand that had insulted the country. In an instant, Leo's reputation plummeted, and along with it, the stock price of Vance Enterprises. I glanced at the ever-increasing balance in my bank account without a flicker of panic. He could go bankrupt for all I cared. I'd just keep making my money. We wouldn't interfere with each other. But in Clara's eyes, things were obviously different. She was convinced that Leo and I were tied together, so the moment she heard Vance's stock was tanking, she called me to gloat. Even though Mark and I broke up, Mr. Davies is so good to me. He buys me all sorts of designer things and supports me in whatever I want to do, not like you. You have a rich husband, but he doesn't even care about you. At the end, she didn't forget to add, "Oh, sorry, I forgot. Your rich husband is about to go broke too." I said nothing and hung up. Sometimes watching a fool's performance is just exhausting. That's just how Mr. Davies is. He spends money like water, especially on young girls. His retirement pension, while not small, couldn't possibly sustain that kind of spending. In my past life, my mom had to work several jobs to support them. It was exhausting. I tried to convince her to break up with him, but she insisted it was hard to find a caring partner at her age. Seeing that I couldn't persuade her, I decided to earn more money myself to help her out. That's why I quit my job as a gymnastics coach at a university to look for better opportunities. From that day on, I was the one working multiple jobs. But what I found most difficult to endure wasn't the pressure from work, but my mother's insatiable greed. She never felt sorry for me, she only complained that I didn't give her enough. Gradually, I realized my mom was a hopeless romantic, completely blinded by love. For that old creep, Mr. Davies, she had no problem working me like a horse. So what about now? My sister is famously lazy. There was no way she would go out and earn money, so my mom could only bear the burden herself. But my mom's frail body couldn't handle being exploited by both of them. Sure enough, a few days later, I got a call from my mom. She was crying on the phone, describing her miserable situation in detail. I believe everything you're saying, I said calmly. But what does that have to do with me? I hung up. Playing the saint too often never ends well. Remember to let go of the need to be a savior and respect other people's destinies. The competition on Idol Ascent was halfway through. The contestants were all giving their all to fight for a debut spot with one exception, Isabella Croft. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would find it hard to believe that at this stage of the competition, someone could still perform the dancer so terribly. Her movements were sloppy, her voice was off-key, and she sang the final line, "No one sees the dancer's joy or sorrow." I had been holding it in for the entire song, but I couldn't anymore. No one sees this old lady's joy or sorrow either. The entire studio fell silent. My blood boiled, and I said sharply, "If you had taken even one gymnastics class, you wouldn't have turned this piece, which incorporates rhythmic gymnastics, into such a mess. Have you no respect for the audience? No respect for rhythmic gymnastics? This is a desecration of the sport." The moment I finished, some fans behind me started grumbling. "What's wrong with this woman? Does she even know anything about gymnastics?" "Yeah, Isabella is already trying so hard. This old woman is just jealous of Isabella." Isabella remained composed, smiling slightly. "Alara is right. I'm really not very good at this. But listening to you, it sounds like you know a lot about rhythmic gymnastics. Could you perhaps give a demonstration?" As she spoke, she held up the ribbon she had used for her performance. I understood. She was challenging me. She was smiling so brightly and elegantly now, but that was fine. She wouldn't be smiling for long. I took the ribbon from her hand, and with a series of fluid spins, leaps, and turns, my eyes closed, I moved with a beauty that silenced the room. "It's been a while, I'm a little rusty," I said with a smile. Handing the ribbon back to Isabella, she was completely dumbfounded. But what would shock her even more was yet to come. That afternoon, someone online dug up another identity of mine that I had never mentioned: former world champion in rhythmic gymnastics. "These are just honors from the past," I had told my mother-in-law once. "I didn't think they were worth mentioning." But the public's interest in this identity of mine far exceeded my expectations. In less than half a day, the news about me had spread all over the internet. Everyone was amazed by my achievements and admired my modesty. "See, I told you a normal person couldn't marry into the richest family. You need to have some serious skills to be worthy." "What are you talking about? She's a world champion. The Vance family definitely married up." Thanks to my world champion status, Vance Enterprises' reputation recovered, and the stock price, which had been falling for over a week, finally started to rise. The Vance family had dodged a bullet. My mother-in-law, who had been on edge for days, could finally breathe a sigh of relief. "See, I told you. Your Vance family must have done something great in a past life to have you marry into it. You better appreciate her, you brat." It was only much later that I found out the person who first revealed my champion status online was actually hired by my mother-in-law. I asked her why she did it. She looked proud. "My daughter-in-law is this amazing. I can't let some little nobody bully her." While I was thriving, things weren't going so well for Isabella. After the dancer incident, her popularity plummeted. Her company poured a ton of resources into her, but her terrible skills made it all a waste of money. The company had no choice but to consider promoting someone else. Just like that, Isabella was cast aside. I don't know where the rumor started, but speculation was rampant that I would take this opportunity to crush Isabella completely to promote my own trainees. Isabella herself dropped all pretense of dignity. She cried in front of the camera, saying she was under a lot of pressure. Her mental state was poor, she felt targeted, and she might have to drop out of the competition. The paid trolls also chimed in, insinuating that I was suppressing her. In reality, this was just the desperate struggle of a cornered animal. She had already been abandoned by her company. That was a done deal. All I had to do was watch quietly. But I forgot I still had Leo, my saboteur of a teammate. This time, he once again immediately came forward to declare his position. However, unlike last time, he stood firmly by my side. I stormed into his office, fuming at the sight of his "please praise me" expression. Did you not remember a single word I said about keeping your personal and professional life separate? Do you have the brain of a pig? He was clueless, raging impotently. You woman! I'm defending you and you're still not satisfied? What do you want me to do? My phone vibrated in my pocket. I picked it up and my vision went dark. The rival company's move was faster than I had anticipated. The moment I saw Leo's ridiculous statement, I had contacted PR to minimize the damage, but it seemed I was too late. The internet was already flooded with negative news about Leo. Leo Vance speaking up for Alara now? Isn't he just making things worse? LOL, this scumbag is trying to rebrand as a devoted husband. In an instant, all sorts of sordid rumors about him were dredged up. The scandal remained a hot topic for 3 whole days. I was determined to let him clean up his own mess. He fumbled around for over a month without getting anywhere, and in the end, my mother-in-law had to step in and fix it for him. At the family dinner that night, my mother-in-law looked exhausted. I'm getting old. I've wanted to let go for a while now. This is the last time I'll help you. From now on, don't come to me with any company matters. Listen to your wife more. He was quite a quick learner. Honey, do you have any suggestions for the company's future development? I took a sip of red wine and looked at my mother-in-law. Mom, if it's possible, I suggest you have another child. When it rains, it pours. Lately, it felt like everything was going wrong. Just as Leo's mess was resolved, news came that my mom was sick and hospitalized. The moment Leo and I arrived at the hospital room, my mom started complaining. You wretched girl, you finally came. I guess you still have a conscience. You're praising me too soon. We're actually here to get back the $50,000 Leo gave you. This idiot, trying to suck up to me, had transferred her $50,000 without a second thought after hearing she was in the hospital. Luckily, he came to me to boast about it right after. Otherwise, I would have lost $50,000 and been kept in the dark. Alara, how could you be so shameless? It's bad enough you're not paying for anything, but now you want to take back the money your brother-in-law gave? I shot a cold glance over. Clara was returning from outside, loaded with shopping bags, with Mr. Davies trailing behind her. Looked like they'd been on a shopping spree. My mom got sick from exhaustion supporting these 2 leeches, and they had the audacity to go shopping. Wow, buying so many luxury goods, I sneered. You didn't happen to use the $50,000 my husband lent you, did you? What's it to you? My brother-in-law lent me the money. It's none of your business. Oh, your brother-in-law regrets it, I said playfully. He wants it back. Clara's big eyes fluttered as she looked at Leo. Brother-in-law? Is what she's saying true? I remained silent, looking at Leo. Like a well-behaved kitten, he nodded obediently, earning a smile from me. I turned back to Clara. You don't have to return it. You can just pay interest. Clara transferred the money while muttering under her breath. You heartless bitch, all you care about is money, money, money. Not like me, I value relationships. I looked at her, then at Mr. Davies, who was still fawning over her. If you really value relationships, that's great. Mr. Davies' feelings for you run very deep. And so we reached the finale night. Witnessed by millions, Maya, from the same company as Isabella Croft, emerged as a dark horse to win the championship and debut as the group's center. Many might have found this result surprising, but I knew that this young girl's talent fully deserved such a reward. I had seen her practicing dance alone late at night. I had seen her fall and get bruised while practicing difficult moves, crying, then getting back up to practice again. I had seen her practicing with a high fever of 104, an IV drip in her arm. Honestly, she worked harder and was more talented than any of the trainees under me. Now she stood at the very center of the stage, under the watchful eyes of the public, holding her trophy and crying like a child. Through her sobs, she expressed her endless gratitude to me, saying that it was thanks to me that she had made it to this point. Before the final competition, rumors were flying that I was using my capital to suppress trainees from other companies to promote my own artists. Many unscrupulous gossip bloggers even predicted that the final center position would definitely go to one of my trainees. However, reality slapped these people hard in the face. I did use my capital, but it was to support Maya. During that time, rumors circulated among the trainees that Maya was thinking of quitting. For a girl who loved the stage so much, quitting had to be a last resort. I had someone look into it and found out that her father was seriously ill and they couldn't afford the treatment. Without a second thought, I covered all of her father's medical expenses, which allowed her to focus on the competition without any worries. Dreams are precious, I told her. Kids from ordinary families should be brave enough to chase them. I hope you never give up easily. I'm here for you. I thought that after the show ended, I could finally get away from all the drama and rest for a while. But fate had other plans. The secret formula for Vance Enterprises' flagship product was leaked. In my past life, this was the event that marked the beginning of the Vance family's downfall, leading to their complete bankruptcy 6 months later. The news was a huge scandal at the time. My sister had cried to me then, saying it was all that bitch Isabella Croft's fault. Seeing that her chances of marrying into the family were gone, she had turned to the president of Titan Industries. She was the one who wheedled the secret formula out of Leo and leaked it. But in this life, Leo followed my every command and had long since cut ties with Isabella. How could he have fallen for her trick again? Leo stammered. She said if I didn't give her the formula, she would have you kidnapped. I put my head in my hands. And you think she didn't just kidnap me directly because she doesn't like kidnapping? I roared in frustration. I have 2 bodyguards with me every time I leave the house. How would she kidnap me? Do you have a brain? And even if she did, what's more valuable, me or the secret formula? You're more valuable. You're more valuable than anything, Leo answered instantly. Besides, the family has so many product lines. We don't just rely on this one, right? My head was spinning with anger. I seriously wanted to crack his head open and see what kind of wiring was inside. Seeing my expression darken, he asked quietly, "So what do we do now? Mom said to listen to you more." I sighed deeply and looked out the window. "I'll point you to a solution. Why don't you just jump out that window right now?" The atmosphere was incredibly awkward, but luckily my phone rang, breaking the tension. As soon as I answered, I heard my mother's frantic wails. "You need to come back and see. Something's happened to your sister." Clara was a sobbing mess, unable to string a coherent sentence together. My mom was also hemming and hawing, as if she had something she couldn't bring herself to say. It took me a while to piece together what had happened. Simply put, my sister had nearly been raped, and the man who tried to assault her was none other than my mom's new partner, Mr. Davies. I knew my sister was stupid, but I didn't know she could be this stupid. My mom was at a loss. "What do we do now? Your sister is like this, and Mr. Davies has run off. How am I supposed to live the rest of my life?" Her wailing was giving me a headache. "What can we do?" I said impatiently. "Call the police, get him arrested, and then we'll figure out the rest." At the mention of this, my mom's face changed drastically, and she frantically tried to stop me. No, we can't call the police. If we call the police, Mr. Davies will be ruined. Besides, flies don't bite a seamless egg. If Clara had been more decent, a man wouldn't have tried to rape her. Heh. There she was, the mother I knew so well. In my past life, when I told her that old creep had designs on me, she had the same dead-set attitude. From that moment, I understood that my mom was completely blinded by love. She would rather believe her own daughter was a promiscuous slut than admit that the man she loved was an old pervert. Clara had stopped crying now, but her expression was even more hopeless than before. While my mom was out of the room, she confronted me. "You knew he was this kind of person all along, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me?" Of course, how could I not know? I was just smarter and more decisive than her. When I discovered Mr. Davies' true nature and realized my mom wouldn't be on my side, I fled that hellhole overnight and started living on my own. I had given almost all the money I'd earned to my mom, so life after leaving home was incredibly tough. I tried asking my rich sister for help, but at the height of her glory, she wouldn't even give me the time of day. And now you have the nerve to blame me? I said to Clara, furious. You've got a lot of gall. She was stunned into silence. I gave her a contemptuous look. So what if you were reborn? So what if you made a different choice? You see it now, don't you? No matter how you choose, you're the one who loses. Do you know why? Clara bit her lower lip, her expression turning savage, her eyes filled with hatred. I leaned in close to her, caressed her pretty face, and said with a smile, "Because you're stupid. You always pin your hopes on others. You've never once thought about changing things yourself. Silly sister, a useless fool, even with 100 second chances, would just be performing 100 ways for a fool to die." "I'll kill you!" she suddenly shrieked, lunging at me and grabbing my collar, trying to choke me. But before her hands could tighten, the bodyguards who had burst through the door slammed her to the ground. She let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. I squatted down to examine her, sighing dramatically. "Tisk, tisk, tisk. You didn't really think we were on the same level anymore, did you? I was already doing you a favor by letting you get close. And you actually tried to kill me?" Pinned to the floor, she thrashed and writhed wildly like a madwoman. Oh, I shouldn't say like a madwoman. Given her state, she probably was. That night, my mom called me, crying. "What do I do? Your sister went crazy and jumped into the river. She was lucky someone pulled her out in time. But she was already acting erratically before she jumped. And the shock of the cold river water made her even crazier. Now she goes berserk whenever she sees a man, and when she does, she tries to kill them. My mom had no choice but to pay to have her committed to a psychiatric hospital. Are you sure you don't want to help? Your mom is having a really hard time," Leo asked cautiously, stealing glances at me like an old eunuch awaiting an imperial decree. I rolled my eyes at him. "Stay out of it. She's getting what she deserves. You should worry about your own problems. I heard the workers haven't been paid in over 2 months and are about to riot." He puffed out his chest. "Don't you worry about that. I already have a solution. Just wait and see your man in action in a couple of days." I looked at him doubtfully, muttering to myself, "Can I really trust him?" I have to say, when it comes to being a disappointment, Leo never lets me down. A few days later, he answered my question with his actions, not in the slightest. He gathered the employee representatives for a so-called mobilization meeting. He looked so confident that I actually thought he had come up with a good plan to overcome the crisis. Who knew he would propose suspending workers' wages and then launch into a long speech? I know everyone is struggling, so I'm willing to lead by example. Starting today, I, Leo Vance, will also stop receiving a salary. I believe that as long as we all work together, we can definitely get through this difficult time. The stench of a blood-sucking capitalist was so strong, it made me sick. The worker representatives below the stage were obviously not buying his nonsense and were shouting about beating him up. Just as the situation was about to spiral out of control, a figure strode onto the stage, bravely raised a thin stick, and brought it down hard on Leo's back. The crowd fell silent. Leo stood there, stunned for 2 seconds, then looked back in utter disbelief. The one who hit him was none other than his own mother, and the one who handed her the stick was none other than his own wife. "This one is for the workers," my mother-in-law said, holding the stick, her expression stern. "You're a rich kid. You don't rely on a salary to live. But have you ever thought about how these ordinary workers are supposed to support their families without a paycheck?" My mother-in-law's anger gradually faded, replaced by disappointment. "I never let you suffer a single day, but I never thought that would be your downfall, turning you into such a useless person." Leo rubbed his back, looking aggrieved. My mother-in-law shoved him aside with a look of disgust, then turned to me with a smile and beckoned me to the stage. "As for the company's future, everyone, please don't worry. I hereby promise that for the next 2 months, wages will be paid as usual. If the company cannot continue to operate after 2 months, I will pay everyone the appropriate compensation in accordance with the law. But I believe we won't get to that point because my wonderful daughter-in-law has already drafted a complete set of response plans for this crisis. As she spoke, she gently took my hand. Oh, my mistake. I should call you Chairwoman Ilara. I now formally announce that Leo Vance is stepping down from the position of chairman. A familiar female voice rang out from the back of the crowd. Don't get too happy, Ilara. I've already spent a fortune to secure a relationship with the Chen family. Your raw material supply chain is about to be cut off. Even if you have godlike powers, you won't be able to save this sinking ship. Isabella, uninvited, had a look of sweet revenge written all over her face. Leo Vance, you threw me away for your new wife, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Didn't see this coming, did you? The empire your parents built, brought down by me alone. She pushed through the crowd, flanked by her bodyguards, and stood before me, her face a mask of provocation. Ilara, you stole what was rightfully mine. You were really asking for it. And so, Leo shielded me, then started spewing his usual domineering CEO lines. If you're trying to provoke me, I'll tell you right now, you've succeeded. Get out of the way, I said impatiently, grabbing Leo's collar and yanking him behind me. I met Isabella's defiant gaze, my presence just as imposing. You don't really think you've won, do you? In my past life, Titan Industries had secured its victory by cutting off the Vance's supply of raw materials. As it happens, in my past life, I worked for a time as a live-in nanny, and my employer, Mr. Chen, was actually the boss of the Vance's raw material supplier. But by then, the situation was already a done deal, and there was nothing I could do. This time was different. When I saw things heading in the same direction, I anticipated Isabella's next move and contacted Mr. Chen first. Mr. Chen had divorced years ago and never remarried, raising his 5.5-year-old daughter, Lily, on his own, spoiling her rotten. Lily was an extremely picky eater and never ate properly. Mr. Chen had spent a fortune trying to fix it, but nothing worked until I came along. In my past life, it took me half a year to cure the little girl's picky eating habits. Once she started eating normally, her personality improved a lot, and for that, Mr. Chen was incredibly grateful to me. Since I could handle Lily perfectly in my past life, of course, I could do it again in this one. The Vance and Chen families were business partners for years. Using this connection, I invited them to a dinner party and presented them with a homemade chestnut cake, Lily's absolute favorite. The little girl fell in love with it at first bite and ate several pieces. Mr. Chen was stunned and insisted on getting the recipe from me, saying he would pay any price. I didn't want his money. I wanted his guarantee of a continuous supply of raw materials. He readily agreed and went home satisfied with my recipe. My mother-in-law was a little worried. Aren't you afraid he'll go back on his word? Not at all. Even if Isabella tries to tempt him with money later, I can guarantee he won't back out. Lily will get tired of that chestnut cake in a week or two, and then he'll have to come back to me. And I have hundreds of recipes for foods that Lily loves, enough to keep him on the hook for a decade. Isabella answered a phone call and her face turned a ghastly shade of green and purple. I taunted her. Why aren't you smiling anymore? Were you born without a sense of humor? Seeing her speechless, I pressed my advantage. Was that Mr. Chen on the phone? Did he tell you he won't agree to your request? Oh dear, it seems he doesn't care about your dirty money. Furious, she lunged at me, trying to start a fight. Leo, though a mental lightweight, had quick reflexes. He grabbed Isabella's arm and shoved her back hard. My woman is not for you to touch. At that moment, the domineering CEO line didn't sound so nauseating. Serena stumbled back, signaling her bodyguards to attack. To be honest, I was kind of curious to see if a battle-damaged version of Leo would be easier on the eyes. But my rational side told me that if a real fight broke out, it would be more than just battle-damaged. So, I intervened. Gentlemen, you're protecting her now, but when she's facing charges and goes to prison, don't blame me for not warning you when you can't collect your pay. What nonsense are you talking about? Oh, you don't know yet? I've already submitted a report to the relevant authorities, accusing you of corporate espionage and unfair business competition. The money you gave Mr. Chen has also been submitted as evidence. What a shame, someone might be going to jail. Isabella's ability to handle pressure was too low. She fainted right there on the stage. Leo gave me a thumbs up. Honey, you're amazing. What would I do without you? Get lost. If I wasn't afraid of mom's life's work going down the drain, I wouldn't have bothered with your mess. When I said Vance Enterprises was my mother-in-law's life's work, it was no exaggeration. She had told me about her struggles when she was young. Back then, my father-in-law was just a reckless young man who lost money on every business venture, becoming the laughingstock of their village. It was only after he married my mother-in-law that their lives started to turn around. Later, when they founded Vance Enterprises, my mother-in-law was involved in everything, worrying about every single detail. You have no idea how much those years aged me. My health suffered so much that the doctor said if I kept pushing myself like that, I would lose the baby in my belly. My mother-in-law recalled the past with a look of heartache. But even after working my fingers to the bone for the company for so many years, I never had a formal position. Leo's deadbeat dad always said that women couldn't be entrusted with important responsibilities. Pfft. She looked resentful, but then a sly smile appeared. He calculated everything, but he never calculated that he would die young. After he died, both his son and the company had to listen to me, didn't they? Just thinking about that makes me feel better. My mother-in-law was usually such an elegant lady. I found her attitude toward her late husband a bit absurd, but mostly endearing. I smiled and said, "It's a good thing Leo isn't like his father. He's very supportive of me taking over the company." "He'd better be." My mother-in-law took my hand and said gently, "My dear girl, you must always remember, we women are no worse than those men. We don't have to hide in the shadows, supporting them." I understood completely and nodded with a smile. After careful consideration, I reported Mr. Davies to the police without telling my mom. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. On the day of his arrest, my mom came and made a scene, saying I had ruined her happiness for the rest of her life. I told her that wasn't true. Happiness was still possible. Then I turned around and sent her to the Happy Times senior living home. Leo was sent to a grassroots position for training. In my mother-in-law's words, he needed to experience all the hardships he had missed in his 30 years to toughen him up. To ensure he received no special treatment, my mother-in-law deliberately concealed his identity and sent him to one of the company's most remote factories. At first, Leo cried and threw tantrums, like a spoiled child who didn't want to go to school. That all ended the day he got his first paycheck, a monthly salary of $1,500, which he received with the excitement of someone getting $15 million. He called me that day, giddy with joy, to show off his huge earnings. You know what? This is the first time I've ever earned money through my own labor. For the first time, I feel like my life has meaning, and that meaning is work. From then on, Leo's motivation skyrocketed. He repeatedly won outstanding employee awards for hauling heavy bags at the factory. I used to think I'd ruined him, but it turns out I just chose the wrong path. He's a physical type, apparently, my mother-in-law remarked, then grabbed her suitcase and set off on her world tour vacation. As for me, I wasn't so leisurely. Both Vance Enterprises and my entertainment company were thriving. I was swamped with making money and counting it. This feeling of being busy but happy, it was truly addicting.